Dun, dun, dun. Get web link. Let's see. Am I streaming live? Yes, I seem to be streaming live. Awesome. Hope everything is working. Sound seems to be good. It's always a mystery if it will be a good stream or not. Need some rabbit feet for this. Okay, so page 72 from our comic book Niels Feynman's Time Traveling Adventures, and let me open a older page. Yes, I have the color palettes here. And I am coloring Niels. So Niels Feynman is the protagonist. Color Niels. He is a half Chinese, half Dutch boy. And I'm trying my best to kind of make it authentic as what that kind of person would be like. I am half and half of various things myself, so I know that the country that you live in is definitely affects a lot the mentality and the behavior. I can't say that I'm very familiar with the uh, cultural little details from the other side of the family, so because I grew up in one country, not two, but I visited the other often, so they're like little details that only locals will know. Like, I don't know if you can understand what I mean, but those that are half and half probably do. And it's just a bunch of fun things. I was actually reading up on some articles. How do you know that you are Romanian? And I think it said something. You keep all of your plastic bags from shopping in another plastic bag behind the heater. And your parents have told you, I made you, I'll kill you, whenever you are naughty. So my parents never threatened me with death, but I've had friends that their parents told them that. Because child abuse, it's always fun, right? So primitive. I definitely understand that kids can be very annoying. I had to take care of my younger siblings. Didn't want to, but I kind of had to. And I did not have any patience with them. Hey June! Oh, I didn't see there. Sorry. Oh, Italians too. They have that saying. Sorry, June. Let me write something. Sorry. I didn't see the chat. Hi, Vittoria. How are you? I'm gonna open it a little bit bigger. I forgot like the page. I opened it over the chat and I didn't see it. Hi there. Don't worry. Thank you. Sorry again. I'm really curious now if it's in Italy. Is it like a Latin thing or a European thing? Because I've never heard a British person say that when they were kids, their parents threatened them with death. Uh, I colored the wrong body part. Okay, now I'll do the back of the mouth. Never happened to me either. Yeah, fortunately my parents were okay. But you do have the South African guy, Trevor Noah, and like his mom used to beat him all the time, but from what I understand, he wasn't a good kid, so. Romanians, yeah, I've seen. I really don't have an intimate knowledge of European behavior in that regard. Much sympathy for him. Memes on Facebook, it's quite common. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen it in like a French or British thing, but it's not something that they'll go around bragging, oh, I beat the crap out of my kids when they're naughty. It's just something that nobody really discusses. It's just when you live in a country, tantrums, like kids yelling and screaming in a Romanian supermarket, like I do not remember that. Maybe it happened, like I'm not sure, but here in the US I see a lot more often, like kids misbehaving and beating up their parents. Like I've seen kids for long enough, like these things will you will notice them. To be honest, I do not remember themselves in like really unpleasant situations where they're not able to properly communicate with their kid because the child maybe has some mental issues. Like this is something that's never addressed. Like you don't have a parent saying, "Oh, beat your own child." And some parents public beat up their parents here, and this would not happen back home under any circumstance. They would not get away with that. But here, you have child protection. Oh, I'm sorry he's behaving this badly in public. He's has some neurological problems. People, just give him the stink eye like he's a bad parent. And the situation might be that actually the child has mental problems. Because in the USA, I do see like a lot of disabled people being very mobile. Like they have all these little um, shopping carts, especially for old people. They go and they do their shopping quite often here in the US. And especially here in the countryside, like they'll live with their children and still go shopping and do a lot of things that they don't do back home in Romania. And also mentally handicapped, like I see a lot of them, their mothers take them shopping, and some of them are capable of speech. So they say, oh, I want cookies, I want something, I want this or that. While others, they're like complete vegetables. They can still walk, but they're not able to talk or seem to recognize other people. But they still go shopping with their family. And I see them at Walmart and at Target. So I can't imagine that adult being a very communicative child. Like if they've been like this their whole lives, was probably throwing temper tantrums when they're kids, when they weren't able to communicate with their parents like what they want. And it's like really difficult because you see candy and yummy stuff everywhere on all the walls and the shelves, and if you're not able to understand that no is something that your parents want you to not do, then yeah, I can definitely see why it's a tantrum tantrum. And it doesn't have to do anything with parenting. It's just that communication is not possible. And in Romania, they'll probably get their ass kicked for yelling or hitting their parents. So anyway, I found some really nice YouTube channels that deal with life in China, and one of them is a little girl, and another one is two adults. One of them is American, and the other one is South African. They're both white, and they're living in China and are fluent Chinese speakers and been there for many years. So their videos are very interesting for someone that is not Chinese like myself, because they kind of draw attention to the cultural differences, and they're just better at explaining them than maybe a Chinese person would, because there's some things that you just don't think that they're odd. So if I were to watch a Chinese person's video about how it's like to live in China, first of all, I don't think it would be in English, but let's say it would be in English. There will be so many things that I couldn't understand, let alone all the censorship that goes on in there. I mean, there's different types of censorship in China and the US. They're both self-censored because you don't want to get into trouble, so YouTubers will avoid saying certain things. Not because they're forbidden, is because they'll get in trouble afterwards. It's kind of a you have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom of after speech. So yeah, they can get into a lot of trouble with other people, not just the government. Because aside from spilling out national safety secrets of the army, usually you're not gonna get arrested in either places. But if you say certain things, like you can get into trouble, and get reported and sued and things like that. And in China, it's kind of the same. Like once you get into politics, usually in the US, you have what people call PC culture. So there's certain topics you cannot touch because you'll seem to be one way or another. But they mostly focus on like the life there, and I really enjoy watching those videos. Kind of show me certain things that they do. I'm personally more interested in like hand gestures or uh, certain expressions or behaviors. Because, like you can tell if someone is from a certain area if they do certain things, like, for example, um, Indians, Sri Lankans, people from that area, they'll do like that thing with their head. It's really funny. I mean, even highly educated, upper class people from those countries that come here to the USA and they don't want to be a stereotype or they don't want to behave like back home, or even maybe they view that kind of behavior as being bad. They'll still kind of do certain things without realizing. I was talking with some friends from that area of the world, and one of them just kind of moved their head, like left to right. I can't even do that. I mean, I tried to do it. I looked in the mirror and I tried to do it, and I couldn't. Let's see okay. I'm just checking the sound to see if I'm still live and everything. Because if I don't see anything in the chat, I will try and check to see if I'm still live and not talking to myself. So yeah, it was like this little gesture that he did with his head. Yeah, the Indian nod, and he did that. And he wasn't actually even Indian. He was like from another country, I think, that does not like Indians. But I think it's just for that whole region. Maybe it's something for them that I don't know. I mean, for example, in Europe, if you say yes, you nod your head up and down. I think the Russians do it left to right, like they do it the opposite. Like for no, they move their head up and down and sideways for no. But in Europe, when you agree with someone, you nod up and down, and maybe for that subcontinent, it's that thing when you move your head from side to side. I'm not sure. Because, like, I notice when I talk to them, they don't usually nod up and down uh, if they agree with me. Let's say you're speaking with an American and you're both eating hamburgers, and one of you says, "Oh, this is a good burger," and the other one has his mouth full, so he can't talk, and then he'll nod up and down, like, "Yeah, this is a good burger." And I don't think I've seen them do that much, when they agree with you in a conversation. So I thought it was interesting. Of course, with Italians, it's always that hand gesture that some of you were upset because whenever a American actor tries to play an Italian, he does the hand gesture, the Italian mafia guy hand gesture. But, for an American trying to do a movie about that and tries to make it more interesting and authentic and stuff like that, they will throw in these cliches. Yeah, I can imagine it's not invented, but it's still funny. And I know some people can get upset, especially here in the USA, like they're super touchy. Don't turn me into a stereotype. My culture is not your entertainment. For a precise situation. Yeah, I mean, these are the little things I'm interested in, like under which circumstances do these things occur. So, while we're on the topic, can you tell me what are these precise situations to do this hand gesture? Because now I'm curious. Because I don't want to make Niels like forcefully Chinese. He grew up in Europe, so he's gonna behave like a European mostly. But the problem is that he is supposedly raised and culturally a Northern European, and we're both Southern Europeans, so there are definitely some uh, um, maybe details we're missing out with Niels, but he's from the future, so maybe Dutch people and British people will behave the same. Like these hand gestures will be lost. And they just behave like what they see on TV, which is an anime or something. Like we also have in Sicily and Sardinia mostly a specific sound for the no word. It sounds like nz. Mhm. Ah, okay, you read the Z like t. Okay, so it's yeah, I know it. We have it in Romania too. Like also it is in Britain it's the tisk 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 sound, like when somebody does something bad and all the old grandmas are like. But I think yeah, I think it's pretty widely European, because the Romans went everywhere. But I'm not sure if it sounds exactly like that for you. Probably sounds different than the Romanian one. Because, for example, in Romanian we don't do repetitive. Like in the UK, I've seen it in movies. Like the grandmas will go, but in Romania it's usually like just one. And also it kind of expresses frustration. Um, but I don't know if it's in all the parts of Romania, and also just one time. Yeah, I think because Romanians and Italians are more culturally close, we're gonna have more similarities than the Northerners in Europe. But for example, let's say a wife and a husband are moving a couch in Romania, and they're both Romanian. Um, let's say the husband doesn't put the couch where the wife wants, and she'll be like, ți-am zis să o pui unde trebuie, sau ți-am zis să o pui în dreapta. And she will like yell at him like, oh, I told you to put it on the left or on the right or something like that. And it's kind of meant to convey frustration and a negation, maybe. Trying to think of situations. Let's say a young person and an old person are talking, and the old person says communism was so great, and like the young person will either roll their eyes or go, oh. I try to find kind of Dutch comics, see maybe there's certain sounds that Dutch people do, but it's so insignificant, like you can't even notice it. It's exactly the same. Yeah, I'm really curious if like rolling eyes has been something that is really done in Europe for a long time. I'm not sure exactly what the history of eye rolling is. Because I understand there's some cultures that do not have the eye roll. And I understand that in a certain African culture, it's like rude to do eye contact. Yeah, I haven't had time to look too much into these things, but if I can remember them, I try and remember them because I'm probably gonna need them for a story some point, just to kind of give a better characterization of someone that is from a certain region. Because it's like these little things that they do in some parts, and I think it's really fun to keep those details in a story. Like, it might be a bit confusing and strange. I mean, for example, I read Anna's comic, and some of the interjections that her characters do, like they say a he, and I'm like, what the heck is a he? Like, what was that sound supposed to be? And I think it's really interesting, but I'm never sure, like, is it a typo, or is it like really how they do that in that northern part of Italy? Did they make those sounds? Yeah, something like that. Let me see if I can quickly find it. Where was it? This is the Italian British. Like that, but with a Y. So let me he or something like that. I think. I'm not sure where I saw it. And also saying mama. I think that's good because I mean, if the characters are in the north of Italy, then yeah, they would say mama, not mother or mom. But I can't remember where it was. No, I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe it was a typo. But I've seen her do it many times, so. Oh, no, wait. A he with an I, sorry. So you wrote correctly, so it is a he. So you can see it here. Hey, calm down. In English, if you were to write it, it would be AE without the H. So I'm assuming it's like a different pronunciation. But just English is a terrible language for this. It's not a phonetic language. So it's really hard to understand some things how they're actually pronounced. Because if you read something in English, it's always that mystery. Do I read it like an American, like an English, like a Latin, because it's a Latin alphabet? How am I supposed to interpret this text? Because it's always a mystery. Yeah, but in the English one is either a or oi. If you're from the south, sorry, or if you're from the southeastern part of England, Cornwall, I think, is the oi. And a lot of pirates came from that region because the British Empire employed British men to terrorize the Spanish fleet. So a lot of the pirates were British, and they were actually hired by the British government to terrorize the Spanish. fleet. So like a militarized terrorist group funded by the British to terrorize the Spanish, basically. Um, More or less, yeah. And so a lot of the pirate speech is actually Cornwall dialect, if I'm not mistaken. That eastern part is called Cornwall, southeastern part. So that's why when you hear "oi," uh, it doesn't mean he's trying to be a pirate. He might be from Cornwall. We say "oh" or "a tu vieni qui." Yeah, yeah. Oh. Now I'm exaggerating a bit with the perspective on this one. It's just I'll probably adjust need to adjust it more with the speech bubbles, and I'm not sure yet where I'm gonna put them. Correct line width. I want to thicken line. Yep. And I think it's really interesting to kind of pay attention to these little bits and to help with characterization. And I'm super glad that on YouTube there's so many videos about accents and for example, The Wire does videos on this topic of how authentic certain things shown in video in films are. And they did one on accents. And when you hear an actual expert or a native speaker talk, you can like, if you pay attention, you can hear the differences. And once, sometimes the actors can slip up and get into their own natural accent instead of staying in character, and maybe the director will not be paying attention and miss that, and then they'll get evaluated by the wire about these slip ups, and once you hear it you cannot unhear it, like, oh, he wasn't speaking with the right accent in that scene. It's funny, but if for a comic it's just so hard to do. And actually I wanted to give Marie a slight French accent, and for Erwin a slight Chinese accent, but I thought in writing it would be just too hard. How are you gonna do that without giving them like a super thick accent? And it would not make sense to have a very thick accent if they've lived so long in the UK. It would not make sense for them to have a heavy accent if they've all been educated properly. And Marie, I mean, her voice box um, is like Alexa or Cortana or Siri. So it wouldn't really make sense for her to have a very thick accent. So I gave up on that idea fairly quickly. But I always felt bad. I thought it would be very interesting to have accents, but I thought that I would not be able to do it properly um, for my comic. And also, I would have like a bunch of people try and correct me. Oh, you didn't spell it well, or that's not how you write English. And I thought, maybe they'll just not be able to tell. They'll think it's a typo instead of an accent. So I had to give up on the idea. But if I ever do um, uh, with sound, I would want them to have the accent. And Niels would have like a very faint Dutch accent because he's lived with his father the last few years. My mother is from the northern part of the country and she has lost her accent, unlike my uncle who speaks with a very heavy accent. But I think just some words slip in sometimes. Maybe we don't have the accent, me and my sister, but um, like the other day, she said a word that is usually used up north. Like for example, wait a second. In the south, you say stai un pic. Stai means wait or stay. Un pic means a bit. So wait a second is stai un pic. And she said stai o tsura. So o tsura is the same function as pic. It's just that it's like the northern way of saying that. It's actually a northeastern way. Because on the other side of the mountains, they use other words, I think. Because Romania is separated by mountains, you have all these little pockets of people using slightly different words for the same thing. And I thought, that was interesting because my mom usually doesn't use northern words. So I thought it was interesting and thinking, where did you pick up that word? Like, where did you hear it? And it kind of gives off a bit of info as to the heritage of a person. And I thought of doing that for Niels, but it just seemed like I didn't have enough information to do something like that. I just didn't know enough of the culture to do that. Because I've never lived in the UK or the Netherlands. And I've only passed through France when I was little, so I felt that I would not be able to do that. But for the third book, like the action will take place in Italy, so hopefully you can help me a bit with that. I know you're from the south, and the story is gonna take place in Tuscany, but I'm hoping that you kind of know a lot of the cultural differences that I assume would be even more bigger at that in that time period. Of course, the issue would will be with translation. Like, do we do a southern accent for Southern Italians and do a northern accent for northern Italians. Like, would Tuscany people sound Scottish? I don't know. Also, in English, they kind of have this default English, Northern English accent. It's not any particular place in the UK, it's just kind of a mishmash of Scottish and a hint of Irish, and I'm not exactly sure where Sean Beam is from. Let me see. Sean Bean. English actor. Born in Hadsworth, a suburb of Sheffield, part of Yorkshire. Also, he's actually kind of central, but um, let's see. So he seems to be kind of central. I don't know if you can see that little red dot. So he's not that up north. But his accent is usually considered northern English. If you have any like characters that happen to be there. Because, for example, the Lannisters in Game of Thrones had a southern British accent. And I forgot what the name of it was. Let me look at a UK Google Maps. Sussex, Fuffix, something like that. Doesn't really say the regions. Yeah, I don't know, something like that anyway. So, because the Lannisters in Game of Thrones are Southerners. And I think they did such a great job with all the accents in Game of Thrones. And I would have liked to have done that as well, but it's super hard and it takes a lot of time to research. And I've gotten a few words here and there, tried to do that. There's not much on Cambridgeshire accent, unfortunately. Nobody gets really that specific on YouTube. But if I would go to a acting class in the UK, I'm sure I would study this intensely. Have I drawn the lake bed? I think I have. Should be here somewhere. There it is. But yeah, it'll be definitely a lot of work to find that out. And the second book is gonna take place from China to Africa, so it's gonna be pretty broad accents, and I'm gonna try and do the accents more than because it's just more fun. Uh, the characters will be The characters will be using Babelfish translators. I'm gonna put there the color fish. So the characters will be using Babelfish as a translation device. I don't know if you've seen the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but there's a little device. It's like a parasitic worm that goes in your head and translates for you, but it's not gonna be a parasitic worm for my comic. It's gonna be a just like a Bluetooth device. And they're gonna have everything translated. And actually, when something is translated, you have like the standard voice. Um, Although I like that in Google Translate, if you hit the voice there, it to hear the sound that has been translated. Sometimes the translator will have a bit of an accent because it's the voice of a native speaker translating that. Do I? Isn't enough for both. Okay, take care, June. Thanks for coming by, and have a good night. It is 4 o'clock. Bye bye. Do I have her color? Yes. Sorry about that. I was trying to scratch my nose. Dum dum dum. I still have 2 people watching on YouTube. I don't have the stats for Picarto and Twitch on my channel to see, because it doesn't have to open the windows for each, and usually there's nobody there, so don't even bother. It's open there, so easiest would be to close that. And as much as I love her squish beans, I'm gonna erase them because there's just too little detail there, and it muddles it up. So whenever you're drawing smaller things, it's best to simplify the shape so it's easier to understand, to read. And I don't mean read as in read words, as in understand what that shape is. I don't know why I'm really craving waffles. I had 2 waffles last night, and craving waffles again. And those waffles have been in the freezer for months. I just didn't feel like eating them. And now I have a waffle crave again. So weird. Like, I didn't eat waffles for months, and now I want waffles. Hmm. What is that song from? I think it was a spy movie. It just popped into my head for no reason. My brain does that sometimes. It's a playful brain. It does stuff. His backpack around here somewhere. The exact shade of brown for it. Sorry for being so quiet, but there's nobody in the chat, and I get sleepy when I talk. I'm not much of a talker. That's why I like my husband. He talks a lot, and I don't have to. He's great for parties, and if I have to visit my parents, I don't have to talk. Or if I have to, my mom likes to call, to Skype, and usually just push him forward. Like, oh, look, he has stuff to say. I'm gonna go sleep in a corner. I don't know, it seems like I've never been a very energetic person. Even when I'm enthusiastic about something, it doesn't sound like I am. And even if I muster the energy to be enthusiastic about something, I'll quickly get tired. I don't know, I've just always been a cat, I think, deep down inside. I'm a cat born in a human body. Can't remember what color I decided for these. So I kind of modeled these after the Iron Man gloves. And they seem to be black on the inside. Something like that. So I'll leave it like that as well. Don't know. And I'm gonna make it kind of a green. Kind of the idea of a silicon. Sorry. Silicon little Arduino board type of thing. They usually say when you choke on something, somebody is talking about you something bad. This probably sounds horrible in the microphone, I'm sorry. You can't, I don't think you can bend that well. It has two segments. Mm. I like June's glove better. If anybody says that is too much like the Iron Man glove, that's just because these are the colors of the Chinese flag. So Iron Man is Captain China. No, it's Iron Man is China Man, and Captain America is Captain Puerto Rico. And Winter Soldier, well, he's Russian. No mystery there. It's a Siberian soldier. If you want to make it even more Russian. Sorry. Oh, if this doesn't stop, I'm gonna have to end the stream. If I die, it was nice knowing you. You were a great audience. Oh, that's a tree, I think. Ah, I pressed that. No, I don't want that. Come on. Go away. Thank you. And that tree was darker brown. There we go. Not very exciting right now. I'm just coloring trees and bushes. Panel 4. And this rug has so many details, it will be a pain to put the texture on it. Oh. It's not letting me paint. Okay. Ta-dum, ta-dum. I think I was singing Star Wars, not sure. And panel 5. That tree is not in a good place there. Kind of make more sense for it to be more to the left, I think. Okay. I will have to color by hand. Like a savage. Barbarian. I've seen some people comment being against the bucket tool. But I mean, who does agriculture with a horse these days? to be honest. Also, sometimes, like, I see people being upset with digital artists and not calling them real artists or things like that. And if a digital artist is not a real artist, a farmer that uses a tractor is not a real farmer. He's just playing farming, then, by that logic. I think this nonsense will settle down in 100 years. And then we'll get hipster artists, like we have hipster farmers, where they don't use mechanized agriculture. Or we get like religious people that don't want to use electricity, so sometimes they don't want to use tractors. So we'll have in 100 years hipster artists that say, when everybody's doing it digitally, they'll be like, no, I'm returning to my roots and drawing on cave walls because that is real art. To do cave painting. I can't remember the comic where I saw this, but it was about artists who are never happy with what they do, and it was the comic author looking at I think Dali or something like that, and I will never be like the great masters. And then Dali or Picasso was looking at Renaissance painters and saying, "Oh, I'll never be um, as great as the masters." And um, then Da Vinci or Michelangelo was looking at Greek artists and saying, I'll never be like the great masters. And then you have a guy in a cave painting walls saying, I am great. I'm awesome. And he did like a little stick figure. I wonder if I can find it. I'll never be like the masters. Oh, there it is. Yeah. I'll never be as good as the old masters. I'll never be as good as the old. Oh, it's Bugs Bunny. It's a different painting on the same idea. I'll never be as great as the old masters. I'm the best. I don't know what the joke is for that one. Bag entry. Oh, really? One of the downsides of detecting layers. I wish I could like lock or do something to a layer and it will no longer be taken in consideration by the bucket tool. What's going on? Oh, how simple. Thank you, June. Can I have opacity? Yes. Because it's wet and not gonna see much anyway. So here he's washing his pants. In chapter 1, he fell in a puddle of mud. So that was the end of that for his pants. So I think this is pretty much it for the base colors. I have an extra half an hour for my usual streaming time, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people are today. So since I'm finished with what I was aiming to do in this live stream, there's no reason to prolong it. So thank you all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. This Saturday, I'm not sure if I'll be doing a Color Me collab again or not. A friend of mine, Maria, has restarted the event. For those of you that don't know what the Color Me collab is, let me show you. There it is. So the Color Me collab is an event where one artist will donate a line art and other artists will color it. This was an event initially held on Zoo, and we enjoyed it so much that we try to keep it alive on other social medias platforms as well. I occasionally host it on Facebook, and now Maria has restarted it with her own group. These are the old line arts if anybody wants to have fun with it, to kind of learn how to color better. You have a whole bunch of line arts here that you can play with. And for that event held by my friend Maria, we're gonna have to see and wait. It's gonna be on the 7th and 8th of June, so I am waiting on updates for that. I'm not sure about the time limit or the criteria, but I will keep you guys up to date if I find out anything more. So that was it, everyone. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. The next stream will be Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Michigan, USA time. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly what I'll do yet, but I will keep you updated on my social media platforms. Take care, everyone, and have a good day.